Welcome to the Intercut Podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he made Matt. It's Arturo Zurita.
Hello, Zach. I am excited to be here. We have a lot to talk about, including some March brackets, which we did some of these. I don't even think it was last year. It was almost like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Was it last year?
It might have been 2 years ago. It feels like a little while since we've done brackets on this channel, but they were always fun to do. We did a A24 bracket, a Spielberg bracket, the
A24
superhero bracket with Iman.
Didn't even include Hereditary, so that's how long ago it was. So it has been a while, so I'm excited to get back to these. I know we're going to be doing them weekly, but also just talking movies.
Yeah, we're preparing for March Madness with some movie brackets. Gonna tackle the best Pixar movie in a little bit, but there's other stuff we need to talk about. We're missing our adorable CGI sidekick Fernando this week, but we've got talk about motion capture dogs, Disney Plus's definition of family friendly, and the battle over best Pixar, as I mentioned. But first, make sure you're subscribed not just to the Intercut video feed on youtube.com/intercutpod, or also the audio feed available on most podcatchers. Also, follow Intercut on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We are at IntercutPod. That's at IntercutPod. That's short for podcast. All right, let's start the show the way we start it every week here with what we are watching. What you been watching, buddy?
I was just telling you this earlier. Netflix has this new thing where they're putting their top 10 shows. I kind of like it. But it kind of reminds me of YouTube. We're going
to talk about that in a little bit.
Okay. It's like YouTube's trending page a bit, but we'll save that. They had one that's been getting hyped like crazy. We even talked about it at Sundance, but it's on Netflix. It is called Love is Blind. I've seen 3 episodes of it. I know it wrapped up, and a lot of people, we get recommended a bunch of reality shows. This is probably, because it's Netflix, the most recommended show. Just because people want us to react to like the reactions within the show itself, what happens and all the characters that are in it, all the real people. This is like the new form of The Bachelor, but instead the spin is that there's a certain amount of men, certain amount of women. They never get to see each other. It's called Love is Blind because they're put into these pods where they're kind of quick dating each other. All the men get to meet the women all get to meet the men, but it's all these conversations. And at the end of the 34 days, they have to propose to each other, and they don't leave the show unless they're married. I think it's stupid. It's idiotic. I was only supposed to watch 1 episode, and I'm 3 down. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to go finish it. It's entertaining. I get it.
I feel like that's kind of the description most people have when it comes to reality TV. It's like, it's stupid. I didn't want to watch it. I'm binging it right now.
Exactly.
When these shows work, they're cut together in such a easy to consume way that leaves you kind of like questioning what's going to happen next. I haven't caught Love is Blind yet, but I did catch The Circle, the other Netflix reality show that's been
the one
kind of
you
a big
told me about. Okay.
And yeah, they both kind of do this thing of like playing with, like hiding behind facades and not knowing what another person looks like. And I think that kind of builds in this wanting to see, well, what's gonna be like when they actually see each other, and whether they are doing this knowingly or it's just lucky that they happen to be on Netflix. They seem to have found this very bingeable reality format. But yeah, Netflix has been entering reality in a big way in 2020 with Next in Fashion, their Project Runway knockoff. It's yet another sector of entertainment that Netflix is trying to conquer.
It's interesting, because you think Warner Bros. In a sense, Warner Bros., Universal, they all own TV networks, so they are doing this as well, like whoever owns E! and VH1 and whatnot. But like Netflix has got the movies, the TV shows, the reality TV, the stand-ups. One of the other things that I saw, fantastic title to the stand-up, Alive from New York.
The new Pete Davidson one.
The new Pete Davidson special, as he even says, they're giving them out to everybody. It is one of the worst stand-up specials I've ever seen.
Really?
Very enjoyable, though. By that, I mean, he's not doing stand-up. Like, from the craft of stand-up, it is garbage. Nobody's laughing. The amount of audience reaction shots is so limited because they are just not vibing with him. The funniest jokes that he gets a reaction from the crowd is making fun of the fact that it's not going well. That, Netflix is just giving out stand-up specials to whoever they want. That said, he does have, like, 3 really big acts. The first, I don't know if you heard of it, was him calling out Louis C.K., who used to call him out on Saturday Night Live all the time for smoking weed, and that smoking weed meant he was going to be throwing his life away. What a waste Pete Davidson was. I'll let you see the punchline to that one. And then the Ariana Grande one, with one of the reveals being that Ariana saying he had a big schlong wasn't necessarily a compliment. It was a tactical move so that every woman from now on who sees him will be disappointed. It's very all over the place. It's crazy. He does 9/11 jokes, which for those who don't know, his father was actually a firefighter. It's almost
who
earnest.
Died during 9/11.
It's almost earnest in the way that it's so... He's got a movie coming out called The King of Staten Island, where it's very much just him and like the lowest of the low and what he thinks. He says that Staten Island is known for its... trash pile, the biggest dump. You can see it all the way up from up there, and he says that that's almost how he sees himself, and that's what he put in his special. So as bad as it is, I mean, it's Pete Davidson given all of Pete Davidson. So I hope we have him around for longer.
Yeah, feels like a very of his character special.
Yes, very much so.
So yeah,
what have you been
if
watching?
you're a fan of Pete Davidson's work, I guess you got a Live from New York on Netflix. As for what I've been watching, it's also been something on Netflix. Finally caught up with, as I mentioned during the end of last week's show, the Sundance movie Horse Girl, which is now on Netflix with Alison Brie. For the first half of this movie, I kind of really, really disliked it, and it's not one of... It's not one of those where you figure out what's happening. It's like, oh, I like the whole thing now. The first half is just very slow and meanders and not really. It's not focused. The comedy isn't precise enough. The character examination isn't interesting enough. But then it actually does take a pretty interesting turn, and the way in which it kind of reveals what it's ultimately about. Was something I was somewhat impressed by. I think there's some interesting filmmaking going on in the latter half of the movie, but it's kind of still a hard movie to recommend. I don't know if it necessarily has much to say about its character or its situation. I think it's a few interesting ideas kind of reaching at something bigger and never quite getting there. You saw it as well?
Yeah, I caught it right after we had come back from Sundance, and I agree with you the same way. I like how it was shot. It's got this very dreamlike quality to it. And she wrote it. Brie wrote the screenplay.
I think it's her first writing credit.
Or as some would say with, who directed it?
Jeff Baena, is that his name?
And he's known for doing like the mumblecore stuff. So some may say he's like, well, does she get the credit because it was like half improv? But no, she said that she had worked on this character in particular and really wanting to. I don't know if she said that she had like relatives as well who she got inspiration from with this specific character and how they get dissected towards the second half. But it's an interesting movie that you want to recommend to somebody, but you're like, it either works for you or it doesn't. And the only way to figure that out is, if you got a Netflix account, click it and play it. But, I can't remember what's the last thing that he came out with, because I want to give him credit for another movie that I had seen in a previous festival.
He's done a bunch of small stuff. I remember he did Little Hours, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Oh, and Life After Beth. Okay.
And Joshy.
Mm-hmm. Damn, okay. Yeah, I thought it was an interesting movie that they have a lot of cool behind the scenes now that Netflix keeps posting their behind the scenes not to Netflix but to YouTube, which I find is just leave it all there. But I like Alison Brie in the movie and all the stuff that she did getting into the headspace of it. I thought was really interesting. Yeah,
she's very good in it. If you're a fan of hers, maybe it's worth checking out. But I don't know. It does make... I'm still interested in more films from Jeff Baena. I don't know if this is quite there exactly.
They got the Netflix deal.
Yeah. All right, so let us know what you've been watching in the comments below on YouTube or by shooting us an email. The address for that is intercutpod@gmail.com. But we are going to move on to our yay or nay, where we break down the latest happenings in entertainment, starting with Call of the Wild in theaters now. Okay. It sparked a debate over the film's main character, Buck. Buck is an entirely CGI dog, pantomimed by motion capture artist Terry Notary. Side note, viewers of The Square will recognize him from that memorable ape scene. But anyway, the decision to use a CGI dog instead of a real one might leave some viewers thinking the film is kind of in that uncanny valley, but it's been praised by organizations such as PETA, who typically flag the use of real animals in films over ethical concerns. So, Art, yay or nay, you think Call of the Wild is better off with its motion captured dog performance?
It's one of those that's in the middle, because I understand, because I just saw it. And
yeah, you've actually seen it. I haven't seen it.
I did all like the research for it literally last night, and I saw the motion. I cannot get past the motion capture thing. There's something that Margot Robbie had said about being on the set of Tarzan, where the gorillas were actually people in suits. And if you know Tarzan, you know the same Planet of the Apes where they're fighting, they're caressing, and she's like, I am never doing that again. If you've seen the footage to this, it is very weird. That said, the dude's a masterclass at what he does. He was also, it was the same people. He said the reason he was able to get this role, it was the same connections he had made with the Planet of the Apes movies. So that's how you know that you put him with the right, I guess, budget and people, it works great. It's a CGI dog. I get it. The dog is put in situations where you can't put a real dog in those situations. Yeah. Just, I don't know, maybe I can't even say put money into it. This is why I think it's bad. They wasted $175 million on Call of the Wild.
Really? I had no idea it was that expensive.
How? Sorry, 115. 115. I'm confusing it with Doolittle's. But 115. Because I read the whole tax report in California, how much money they brought in, and I was like, is there a scam going on here? There's even like articles about it. $115 million because of the way that they had a motion capture. And they never shot, because they shot in California. It's supposed to be a snowy place. It was all sets. So,
yeah.
The irony in it being that...
We're both dog lovers on this program. We introduced the inner cuties to Lady not too long ago. We introduced them to Penny at some point. She's off chewing something. But... So it's not about that. Like, we want to ensure the dogs are safe, and there's definitely some stuff in Call of the Wild. I just know from the book that it would be risky to have an actual dog doing that, but at the same time, like, there is a different quality to having a real tangible animal, and I would be a little bit heartbroken if we couldn't at least use some dogs in some movie situations.
Exactly.
Like, obviously, there was that whole controversy with what A Dog's Purpose, I think it was a couple of years ago, where they were worried that the dog was being abused based on the behind-the-scenes footage, and then it came out that was how the trainer was working with it. And,
and Axel, or I think it was Axel or Alpha, had one of the same things, that they had the dogs out there and they were eating the buffalo, and PETA got really mad because it was like, whoa, they can't be eating the buffalo when they were out in Wyoming, I think.
Yeah. So, obviously it'll avoid some situations like that, but I wonder if the solution is something in between, where you use a real dog for the scenes that don't put a real dog at risk.
Definitely.
And then you can, use the CGI motion capture for some of the more complicated stuff. I don't know as much as maybe I should on this, but, I think about movies like White God. You remember that film?
Bro, with all the trained dogs that they had? That's what makes me wonder.
That was an amazing experience, and it's basically like Planet of the Apes, but with real dogs. It's, I think, a Turkish movie.
Just look at the poster alone. It should make you want to see a clip of how they got that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I would be heartbroken if we couldn't have experiences like that. You know?
Poor dogs. They're like getting replaced like kiosks. They're like, what happened to artwork? It's crazy because animation, it's not done because it's supposed to be so expensive, and CG was supposed to be the new way, and it's not. It's even more expensive. So.
Yeah.
Who knows?
The Love, Simon spin-off TV series got some good news and some bad news over the past week. First of all, it's no longer titled Love, Simon. It's now Love, Victor, based on the show's new protagonist.
That's cool.
And the 10-episode first season will debut in June. However, it's been bumped from Disney Plus over to Hulu for quote-unquote adult themes. This move mirrors the shift that High Fidelity made, the Zoe Kravitz series, which originally was developed for Disney Plus and just recently premiered on Hulu. But Art, yay or nay, Disney Plus giving up these shows is a bad decision in the long run.
Yes, easily. So one of the positive things that I would give to it, Hilary Duff had come out and had said, because her show was also put into a halt, and she was like, wait a minute, if there was a different option to go somewhere else, very much implying that if it was too heavy for Disney Plus, but it can live on Hulu, why not? The thing with Love, Victor, which I love that title so much more than it just being a retread of the book and movie, but that they had moved it because they were pitching it not as Love, Simon the series, but that it was going to be Euphoria Light. That's what I had heard from some people who have had screeners to it. I did not say that, but that's what it sounds like, and that makes me really excited. It being the content.
I saw Amanda tweet something about potentially there's some alcohol consumption on the show.
Exactly, yeah.
That's maybe too risque for
that's
Disney
so
Plus.
Dumb.
Which, is weird considering all the beheadings in the Marvel movies and child killings in the Star Wars movies and
all the seasons,
demented treehouse horror episodes
of the Simpsons. Thank you.
That exist on Disney Plus right now. Like, I don't know. I mean, so to one extent, I don't understand it, but to another extent, I do get it because I think Disney Plus seems to be pretty locked in from a value standpoint. It has
That's the worst
this
part.
base of viewers who are always going to go there for the Star Wars content, Marvel content, Disney content, right? And now Disney has to try and make Hulu a viable option too. So they're throwing all these prestige series at Hulu, hoping that you'll go for that Disney Plus bundle option and get the ESPN Plus while you're at it too.
So
get them a little bit more money.
That's the scummiest thing. Imagine you have Disney Plus and you're like, I'm gonna get the live set. No, but I'm still paying my $6.99, and it's not coming to me. It's going to the other. I don't have the other service. I got this one because you told me it was gonna be on there. That's gonna be a problem.
To me, it just is a signal that Disney Plus is going to be the blander option going forward, that they're not going to put the more interesting material there. They're going to put the more branded material on there. And if you are into those brands, then you will subscribe to that service, and that's probably enough to justify the service. But I don't know if we're going to be getting a lot of good original content on Disney Plus in the near future.
And that sucks, dude, because, it sounds like it's just going to be the place where they get their digital streaming stuff for the stuff that went to theaters.
Yeah. But do you feel like this is censorship? I don't know if that's the right word. Like, because to me, I don't know if this is censorship so much as it is just like questionable business decisions.
The problem with it is that the same way that Apple TV, I don't know if you had heard about this, but that Apple TV, the only things that are getting greenlit are the stuff that what's his name likes, and that's
right. Yeah, they're going for
Tim
this
Apple.
like Tim Cook, like this very like inoffensive programming slate. Apparently,
and it makes no sense. Yeah, and it's really bad because to me that just tells me that you're dealing with investors, and that's what I'm worried about. That the content is then going to get manipulated to fit investors. And why do I want to? You and I talk about this all the time. I have HBO, and I have Netflix, and I have Amazon, who are putting themselves on the line over here with their shows like Hunters, anything that goes on Netflix. And HBO's been doing this. HBO hears the controversy Netflix has and goes, yeah, we had The Sopranos in like 2001. Like, what are you talking about? So these other streaming services are just coming to attack kids, really. That's what it is. They're trying to be very kid-friendly. They're seeing what YouTube went through and that debacle, and they're like, all right, we're going to limit that to the most... I don't think there's a kids... Is there a parental guide on Disney Plus?
I don't think so. Like, I know Netflix has its kids option, but I feel like Disney Plus is just kind of like free. Go ahead.
I don't get it.
Be wrong.
And then Bob Iger's gone.
Somebody with kids tell us if we're wrong.
Let us know, because it feels like that they just want the whole thing to just be a parental lock. But I don't see it being a good thing in the long run. Not a fan of it.
Same. Netflix, as we mentioned, unveiled a top 10 feature on its platform, bringing some rare clarity to its programming performance. Each day, Netflix will show the 10 most viewed shows per country, and also will display the top 10 when you're scrolling through for looking for something to watch. What's not clear is how they decide which show is in the top 10, whether that's partial views, complete views, or something else entirely. Art, yay or nay, you think this is a useful addition to the Netflix experience?
Yes. For how long? Who knows? So it's like, it's a yay now because I think it makes the page pop out a little bit more. It lets you know something that's, more trendy and such. But the same way, that we had the YouTube trending tab. And what did that do? At the end of it, a bunch of accusations came out on who was trying to get paid just to be on there. We've had stuff like Rap Caviar. Same thing. That was a way for, a lot of hip-hop to be introduced through Spotify. And then it turned out that people were trying to buy their spots there and such. So the biggest worry with this is the same thing that you have anytime you're dealing with a service that's trying to do a top 10. Why would they not value putting their movies in the top 10 spots over other stuff that's not theirs, I guess? But I mean, if they have it, it's just a way to circulate a bit. I see it being very easily manipulated, considering that it's coming from Netflix, who tells us that their Kurt Russell Santa movie is the highest grossing movie of all time when that got released.
Right. Right. Like this to me it's a very useful marketing tool, right?
Yeah.
Like we were just talking before we started recording about how like you kind of want to watch Love is Blind because it's trending and people are talking about Love is Blind, but like how do we really know that it's trending? Like, yes, we know we've seen it on Twitter and stuff like that, but if Netflix wants to just throw it out to you that, oh, hey, the end of the fucking world is the #1 most watched show, why don't you binge it right now? Like, that doesn't necessarily, that might just be another way for them to pull in viewers, especially when you consider that a lot of people say the hardest thing about Netflix is knowing what to watch, and if you're watching the thing that everybody else is watching, then it kind of feels like you're more plugged in. I don't know.
No, that's a great point. That is a great point. You get everyone to, because it's only 10. You have to. Have you seen at least 6 out of the 10? And it gets people to not aimlessly scroll around. Yeah, it's the new.
Do you want to hear the latest top 10?
Sure, go ahead, hit me.
All right, so this is on February 25th. This was the most recent I could find. Better Call Saul. This is 10-1. I'm going. Number 9, A Bad Mom's Christmas. Then Girl on the Third Floor, Babies, To All the Boys, P.S. I Still Love You, The Foreigner, Lock and Key, Narcos Mexico, The Last Thing He Wanted, and Love is Blind.
The Last Thing He Wanted. Well, that makes sense because they
2.
put that. Yeah, they put that right up in the front.
Yeah, they want people to watch it, but I'd be curious to see how long that stays up there.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting marketing tool, and I can't wait. I can't wait for Nicki Minaj to have her Netflix show and then get mad when the new Travis Scott sequel documentary beats it to #1. Can you imagine wanting the #1 Netflix spot? Like it becomes a new billboard, but for streaming for them. We'll see.
People are negotiating that in their
It's
contracts.
cute. It's cute. We'll see how long it lasts.
Scorsese's not going to make another movie unless it's #1 for 3 weeks.
Unless it's the #1 on the Netflix. He won't settle for less.
Indiana Jones 5 has been in development for a little while, but its latest delays might have the franchise part ways with director Steven Spielberg. The director of all previous Indiana Jones films would step down for Logan and Ford v Ferrari director James Mangold. Art, yay or nay, Indiana Jones would be better off with Mangold as its director than Spielberg.
What was that last good Spielberg movie? I don't mean good.
We kind of like The Post.
What was the last great? What was the last movie that made you go, Spielberg? We thought we were gonna get it with Ready Player One, and we did it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't.
I kind of agree with you. Yeah, I'd go back to the Minority Report, War of the World days.
Right.
I don't want him touching the new what do you do with the last one?
I mean, people who would defend Spielberg would likely point to The Post and Bridge of Spies,
which I like. One of
most
those,
successful recent ones. I'm not a big fan of Bridge of Spies, but even then, you got to say like these are the more prestige, artful movies that I think he does really well. I kind of feel like it's been a little while since he's made a blockbuster film that felt exciting the way that you want a Steven Spielberg blockbuster to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried this with the Indiana Jones 4 also.
With that, the BFG, he's had big money stuff that can be super creative, and it didn't do it. He's got West Side coming out.
Right. I'm not trying to be like anti-Spielberg either.
How dare you?
But it's just like the man is 72, 73 years old. Like, if he doesn't want to make a 5th Indiana Jones movie, I don't know if we should like tie him to the director's
you
chair.
think he doesn't want to do it?
I think if he really wanted to make this movie, they would move the world to let him do it. I mean, this is his franchise, no?
I mean, he's done every single one. Some behind the scenes to it is he has his new company, Emblem Partners. First one being BFG, and since then they've been the most recent being 1917 as well. So he's really pushing the producing game. I think maybe that's what he's waiting to sit back because he may not want to do it anymore. And as much as it is his baby, you can't kill something like Indiana Jones if you're building your own franchise. So James Mangold, I'm sorry, but Logan, and I enjoy the Wolverine a lot as well. Not the biggest fan of Ford V and his Ferrari, but I think he may be able to handle it the best. I wonder how much they're going to retcon from the fourth, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
should be cool. I want to see more rides because the Indiana Jones stuff, it's in the parks, it's barely there. It's just hanging on. Like they don't even avoid the fourth one. Like they're just like, please come out with a new installment so we can keep this ride going.
But yeah, I'm hoping this is the kind of move that gives it a kind of like Mission Impossible type of surge of energy, because Mission Impossible has, up until recently always switched its director, and that ends up being kind of like a fun thing when somebody new comes along and revisits it in a fun way. So maybe Mangold can do that for Indiana Jones. I don't know.
I hope.
But that's about it for yay or nay. Be an inner cutie and send us a question by leaving it in the comments on YouTube or hitting us up on social media at IntercutPod. You can also email us, intercutpod@gmail.com, and we will make sure to get to your suggestion on a future episode. We are going to move into our topic of the weekend, as we hinted to, with March Madness and brackets coming up, a big tournament style thing being all the rage. We thought we'd, get in on that trend ourselves with our own movie version. This time we're doing Pixar in honor of Onward coming out March 6th, I want to say. The latest Pixar movie. We are going to break down what we think is the best Pixar film. Now, there have been 21 feature film releases from Pixar up until this point. I have them ranked in order of how much money they gross at the box office. Okay. But the thing is, with a bracket, it's a lot easier to do it with an even 16. So let me read out the 8 lowest grossing movies, and we can decide which 3 should make the cut. I think this will be fairly easy. 14th is Cars 2, then Brave, then WALL-E, Toy Story, Cars, A Bug's Life, Cars 3, and The Good Dinosaur. Now, I know you pretty well. I know your taste in Pixar. Okay, I'm pretty sure we're going to keep Toy Story among this group, and I'll also throw out there that I'd like to fight for WALL-E.
I was about to say.
I think that makes this pretty easy. We have either Brave or A Bug's Life or any one of the Cars movies to choose from.
Yeah.
For that last spot.
Let's go with Cars.
Cars?
Yeah, because I think it is officially the highest grossing merchandise-wise. 8 bill.
Right. Yeah, it is a big part of the Pixar story, and that they continually went back to Cars rather than making more original
of the other
movies.
ones.
I think it's been a frustration in recent years.
So that excludes what else?
So that means we're not including Cars 2, Brave, A Bug's Life, Cars 3, or The Good Dinosaur.
All right, no disrespect to Brave, disrespect to the other ones, but I think that's solid enough. Then we're going to make it past the first, for us at least.
All right, so we're starting off with the number 1 seed versus the number 16 seed, and the highest grossing Pixar movie of all time, somewhat surprisingly, The Incredibles 2. So we're going The Incredibles 2 versus Cars in the 16th seed.
Wow.
I wasn't the biggest fan of The Incredibles 2, but I am not a fan of Cars.
You're not a fan of Cars at all?
No, not even at all.
Wow. I am actually... I slightly like Cars.
You're a bit of a defender of Cars, yeah.
Yeah, I like Cars a little bit more than I like Incredibles 2. But I also like Incredibles 2 way more than everybody else liked Incredibles 2 the year it came out. People hated it. They hated the villain. They hated every aspect and being of it. So I'm okay with having Incredibles 2 go past, because Cars would not make it past the second round. It would run out of gas second round anyway, regardless of.
Exactly. So yeah, let's keep the number 1 seed in for
but
just
shout
a
out
little
to
while
Cars.
longer.
Thank you for all you did, Lightning McQueen. You made your revenue really. You made your rewards in revenue.
Yeah, Owen Wilson will ride that paycheck into the distance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the number 2 seed versus our number 15th seed. This is an interesting one. Toy Story 4 versus Toy Story.
Toy Story.
Is this a question?
It's not a question.
You like Toy Story 4 a lot more than me, but
I love it. It's a natural progression. They followed it. They've been consistent. I cannot be mad at them coming up with something that we may like the third one as a great ending, but the fourth makes sense. It makes sense to me. It's one. What? No.
Yeah. One's the reason we
dumb.
all fell in love with it. One's the thing that got Pixar started. I think even just on legacy, you got to give it to one.
There's only one competing with one, and it's 2. That's it.
All right, so Toy Story beats number 2 seed Toy Story 4 to advance to the next round. We got more Toy Story in the next matchup. Number 3, Toy Story 3 versus number 14, WALL-E. This is a tough one.
Zach, talk about it.
So I think WALL-E might be viewed as maybe the most artful of the Pixar movies. You know, it's got that whole largely silent 40-minute opening, and it's this very gorgeous idea of a future Earth. It's a very, very ambitious movie. But Toy Story 3 has kind of the biggest gut punch of any movie maybe ever.
Of all time.
At least of these animated movies. They've got 2 separate moments that are just like rip your heart out emotional.
When you say that, I thought of 2. You know, I'm thinking the dumpster and I'm thinking the goodbye. And it's like, it escalated so much that it was nominated up there for Best Picture, you know? I would say rightfully so. That said, WALL-E's got that whole thing going on with all the humans just, you know, like what will eventually happen and how it's taken over. And it's got like one of the craziest messages in a pic. It's the better version of Interstellar. Almost to a degree.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Only one of these movies do we find like weird futuristic things happening in the real world. And it's like, oh, it's like WALL-E. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And the ways in which it's unfortunately kind of like predicted our future, whether that's like just human laziness or that's like corporate overtaking of everything, just corporate culture. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna feel bad 2 years down the road if we eliminate WALL-E here.
Then we shouldn't eliminate WALL-E. My only defense for WALL-E is that it is an original story that has not been tainted by a sequel. Not to say that the Toy Story movies haven't been tainted by a sequel, but if I were to take them individually...
I got so stressed at that moment that
you had to rip it off.
Cord out of my headphones.
If you had to rank them individually, Toy Story 3 is 3 for me. It goes 1, 2, 3. So if I were to compare it, Toy Story 3 on its own, it does stand on its own. But WALL-E is its own original concept, and that's the only reason why, as the biggest Toy Story fan, I'm going to make sure Toy Story is going to end up very deep in this bracket with the first 2. I would put WALL-E over Toy Story 3 just off originality alone.
Really? Jeez. This is bugging me because, you know, there's a world in which I would say that Toy Story 3 is my favorite Pixar movie.
Wow.
And this is what's interesting about the brackets, because you come up against a certain movie and it's like, man, I don't know if I can do WALL-E like that in the first round.
I know. I'm putting my Toy Story bias to the side. I'm surprised.
All right, let's go WALL-E here, and I'll just fear the comment section.
To this day, I think it still holds up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the number 4 seed is Finding Nemo, and the number 13 seed, Toy Story 2. We can't escape Toy Story.
It's Finding Nemo. I'm not even playing with you. I'm not even playing with you here.
Because you're a big fan of Toy Story 2. I mean, I love Finding Nemo. I think
Finding Nemo
a pretty underrated.
My most viewed movie in theaters.
Is it underrated? Maybe it's appropriately rated, but it's
Finding
great.
Nemo Spirited Away. If we're talking in terms of culture,
Finding Nemo.
It's the movie I saw the most in theaters growing up. It's without a doubt.
All right, so we're going Finding Nemo. This one is a little bit easier, I think. Number 5 is Finding Dory. Number 12 is Monsters, Inc. I mean, this is just like this is phase 1 Pixar
Of course.
versus like phase blah Pixar.
Yeah, so there's no time to explain here. We'll get it to later. Finding Dory, we appreciate you. I don't hate it as much as other people do. It does have a skewed message on disability sometimes here or there, but I think a lot of the stuff that they did around the movie in real life, and I still like Ellen DeGeneres as the voice of Dory. Don't make another one, but I did enjoy it. It's still got to go. It's not gonna be Finding Dory. You agree,
so
correct?
Monsters Inc. Yeah, Monsters
Easily.
Inc. all the way. I mean, it's got the more original story. It's got the iconic voice cast. I mean, I think for the most part, we're favoring originals over sequels here. Like obviously, Toy Story maybe is a bit of the exception. Although we've already eliminated all the Toy Story sequels.
I know.
But yeah,
I don't think Intercut 2 years ago would have done that.
Nope. Number 6 is Inside Out, and number 11 is Ratatouille, another battle of highly praised originals, although I feel like the perception of Inside Out is generally thought of a little bit more highly than the perception of Ratatouille.
You think so?
Like, there are those people, and I'm among them, that are like, Ratatouille is super underrated in the Pixar catalog.
I think Inside Out has been out enough. Quote Ratatouille way more in my daily life, in memes and everything, than I do Inside Out. And it's not to bash Inside Out in any way, shape, or form, but I think there's some inconsistencies in Inside Out, whereas in Ratatouille, it's like it just goes there. I think Ratatouille has I don't want to call it a better message, because I feel like when you're pitting them together, you're like saying that one is lesser than the other, and it's not. I just think that I think Ratatouille is way more iconic. I think just the way I smell the food in Ratatouille. Like, you know, every one of the biggest references that you make when you're going to be like a chef or you want to go to France or whatever is like, oh, you're going to go eat Ratatouille, you know? It brings like, I think, a big culinary sense to like kids who were growing up during that time and, you know, thinking that it was okay to have a rat in the kitchen.
There's a specificity to the story in Ratatouille that I find a lot more interesting than Inside Out, which is more vague and you know, it does this whole thing where it's about discovering your emotions and finding a balance to them, which, you know, I do think is really interesting, and I've come to appreciate Inside Out a lot more in conversations both with people who work in psychology and therapy.
Interesting.
In that they've been able to talk to kids about their emotions through the characters in Inside Out.
That's
and
cool.
also just like talking with young relatives of mine who actually engaged with Inside Out and I feel like they get the themes of that movie.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, there's a part of me that is a little biased to Ratatouille just because it's got that amazing Anton Ego character.
I was about to say.
If you've ever done a little bit of criticism, like that speech towards the end is just perfect.
The speech and the nostalgia trip that it takes you on.
Look, I just prefer Ratatouille. I'm open to an argument for Inside Out, but it doesn't seem like you're going to be the one to give it to me.
No, I would, and you brought up the scene. I love the Bing Bong scene in Inside Out. I think it is the strongest moment that it has, alongside sadness having a glow of yellow around her, and the vice versa for joy. Love that. But it's got to be Ratatouille. I think Ratatouille, I think, is the best one. And I'm surprised we have not gotten a sequel. I'm surprised. I don't know if it's the restraints or they just haven't been able to pull it through yet and they've been wanting to. But no, it's got to be Ratatouille for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit lower down this list of their higher grossing movies. But that being said, like it's not that low.
It's got a much bigger cultural impact than you'd think. But I think a younger generation would pick Inside Out over us easily.
I agree.
You know what I
with you.
mean?
I agree.
Yeah.
Maybe we were a little bit too old when Inside Out finally hit us. Like
that could be it.
You know, I just
too jaded.
Exactly.
We only have the red one in our minds.
I just didn't feel like I jived with what it was trying to say about the human mind. Yeah, it's cute. All right, so number 7 is Coco, and number 10 is The Incredibles. Now, I love The Incredibles art.
You don't think I don't like Coco?
I have a feeling I'm going to lose this argument, though.
Give me your argument for The Incredibles. Because I do enjoy The Incredibles.
I mean, what I would say here is that, you know, we're in this era of all these superhero movies, and I think by injecting the superhero genre with this family drama, it kind of brought the best out of both and is sort of a perfect superhero movie and family movie.
I agree.
the whole arc with Syndrome is so indicative of our fan culture, and I think the ways in which it talks about the whole like banning of superheroes ended up being strangely influential on the next just generation of superhero fiction. I don't know. There's a lot of superhero. There's a lot of stuff that I really jive with in The Incredibles. It's not like my favorite Pixar movie though.
Mm-hmm. See, the thing with Coco is, I don't know, what's the song from The Incredibles?
Well, it's not a musical.
Of course not. Remember Me, though, being the classic that it is. I love the story in Coco and the animation, which is not fair because it's got obviously way more years on it, and it's more recent. But just all of the textures and details that they go into it, the idea of having a border in the afterlife and such, but just really that love story of family, and even through generations and through the afterlife of them being there for you, and the whole concept of the ofrenda. That said, I feel Zach disappeared from me over here for a second, but
sorry.
I would actually pick The Incredibles over Coco.
Really?
Not to have the recency bias or anything. And I do love Coco. I really do. But having rewatched The Incredibles, because I was not a fan of The Incredibles growing up, but you watch that thing when you're older, and that is a straight up family drama that it's only because it's an animation that I think some people may not. And don't get me wrong, The Incredibles has a militia of people who are ready to defend it at any point in time. But I think that if The Incredibles was a live action movie, I'm trying to think of what director would have been able to handle it.
Maybe
just
Brad
because.
Bird.
Yeah, you're right. I guess he does live action as well. But no, I think Brad Bird is much better in animation than he.
Oh yeah, no,
ever
I
is in live action. But no, you rewatch this and you see all the turmoil and stuff that they're going through. Something that the second one tried to do, but it doesn't do it anywhere near as close to the first one. And the fact that when did it come out? 2004?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And it stood the test of time. I'm gonna give it to it over Coco, which might be a surprise to a lot of people. But I'm also playing the long game on this one, and I know what's gonna come down to the final four.
Yeah, no, that it's surprising how well that movie has continued to feel like relevant and vital. And maybe it's unfair that Coco hasn't had quite as much time to kind of marinate and become a part of the culture, but I don't know. The Incredibles is a really great movie. I think there's a reason that its sequel ended up being so financially successful that so many people
were waiting for it.
Yeah, loved that first movie. Were hungry for a second.
And I will give it one that I think is an actual win over it as well. The villain is much better in The Incredible. It's such an iconic shift.
Syndrome's a really good villain.
And his whole arc and stuff, when we see it elsewhere, we go, they pulled a Syndrome. I've said that in Let Me Explain and stuff. Whereas the one in Coco, I grilled it. I think the final reveal, it's... When the ending to your movie is the same as Mike and Dave have wedding dates, that whole microphone... I wasn't jiving with that. That was not for me.
All
but I still love Coco. Love Coco.
Yeah. Shout outs to Coco. We'll keep you on our ofrenda. We're moving on to the last matchup of the first round. The 8 seed versus the 9 seed. Up versus Monsters University. And not really a discussion to me.
You don't like Monsters University? You don't like Monsters University?
Fuck out of here. So Up moves on to the next round. And
All right, let's get down to it. Let's go.
All right, so now this is pretty much all movies we like, although the first matchup is going to be pretty easy for us. The number 1 seed versus the number 15 seed. It's The Incredibles 2 versus Toy Story. It seems like it should be an underdog matchup, but it is not.
It's not even close.
Again, the movie that started this whole Pixar thing off versus a sequel that was kind of underwhelming.
Mm-hmm. It would lived off the legacy of what this and all the other ones before it had.
Absolutely. So we're going to go with Toy Story here. Then Wall-E, the number 14 seed, faces off against the number 4 seed, Finding Nemo.
It's not even close. It is not even close. Finding Nemo all the way.
You're firmly Finding Nemo?
If you need me to explain, I will, but I can wait for later to explain. Are you fighting for Wall-E?
I would go with Wall-E here, and it's weird that I don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
For the same reasons that we were talking about, there's so much artistry there.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like, Finding Nemo is a really great movie, and it does have a world all its own too. So I'm not as opposed to letting Finding Nemo have the win here.
You're saving yours. You're saving yours for the final rounds to be like, hey, I gave you the pass on the other ones. It ain't going to work that way. I'm not getting no pass. I will explain to you. The music and the hymns in Finding Nemo to this day, I think we still hum. Just Keep Swimming. I think the characters to this day we quote more, and that's a disadvantage. I'm not saying, because obviously they don't talk in Wall-E, so I can't put that against them. But it's still, Wall-E still has that beautiful love story. But I would argue that the love story of between father and son and the literal depths that they go through space, sure. But I think that the journey in Finding Nemo is much more memorable and exciting. And I think if you were to tell someone to explain the plot back to you, I think more people would be able to remember everything from P. Sherman Wallaby Way in Sydney all the way down to the ending from Shark Bait, Hoo Ha Ha, over Wall-E. And I'm not going to diss Wall-E.
Wall-E's opening is so strong.
Fantastic.
And I don't know if it is quite as strong in the back half. Finding Nemo is a pretty evenly paced movie. It's got, memorable bits throughout. I am maybe regretting not going for Toy Story 3 a little bit here.
Because it could have
But it's too late.
Toy Story 3 could have fought this. And I'm telling you right now, Wall-E can't fight whatever's coming next, and Finding Nemo can.
All right, so that's the beauty of the brackets. Wall-E defeats Toy Story 3, but falls to Finding Nemo. Now we've got the 12th seed Monsters, Inc. versus the 11th seed Ratatouille. A lot of the not highest grossing Pixar movies not going too far.
These are the biggest ones. These are the most rewatchable. These are the greatest.
The foundational ones.
I'm curious. Where are you going?
For me, I think this is easily Ratatouille, although I like Monsters, Inc. quite a bit. I don't know if I feel like it has as much of a resonance in real life the way that Ratatouille does. And even if the story of Ratatouille is this like fantastical idea about a rat who can control a guy and become a chef, like this idea of outsiderdom is so clearly represented through that movie. That mantra of anyone can cook, I think, is so meaningful beyond the literal meaning. To me, I just find Ratatouille not only more entertaining but more meaningful of a movie. I think Ratatouille can fight that fight.
The friendship in Monsters, Inc. is like none other that I've ever seen. The story of the species of monsters thinking that there's only one way to do things. And for the underdog who's always thought, I need to be the best type of monster, but I don't fit that image, only to realize that what was inside him the whole time, that helped the entire species more because his comedy drew that out of people. What's the ending of Ratatouille? Because Sully put the piece back. Zach, when he put the piece, and Mike Wazowski's hands were shredded.
Yeah, but when Anton Ego eats the ratatouille and his face drops and he remembers his childhood.
Zach. When the CDC came in and said was it 2319? Come on, we're going through that right now, Zach. You're telling me that we can quote Ratatouille more right now than
in
we
the age of coronavirus.
Come on,
how can you deny Monsters
Zach?
Inc?
Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. I love Monsters Inc. Don't get me wrong. I do owe you one, and it can be Ratatouille if you want it to be, Zach. It can be Ratatouille if you want it to be. Monsters Inc.
I think to me, Monsters Inc. has always been like sub-elite Pixar. Like it's not that it's bad by any means. I love Monsters Inc. But you talk about like what are the best of the best Pixar movies? What are the iconic ones? I think it is a step below them. And I think Ratatouille's up there, man. I do. I really do.
Wow. I can't believe what I'm hearing. What was the Ratatouille sequel about? Because Monsters University actually extended. I will give it to your Ratatouille.
All right. We'll see how long Ratatouille lasts.
Man,
but it lives to fight one more round.
I love my. I
Yeah,
think that may have made my A to Z one back in the day. I think it made it like I don't know if it was all the way to the top, but it was pretty near there. It challenged Nemo. It was the only one, along with Toy Story. But all right.
All right, so we gave the last one to Incredibles, so that is the number 10 seed, and it's up against the number 8 seed, Up. I'm actually a really big fan of Up. I obviously it's got that beautiful opening section, but I think the rest of the movie kind of gets forgotten too.
Thank you. Oh, phew. You had me on the first half, man. I was like, am I going to have to do this again? I feel the exact same way, and I have not had the chance to rewatch it. Please explain what I can't put into words.
No, I mean, it is this kind of beautiful story of, reluctantly letting people in after you build up this wall around you, and the persistence of is it Kevin? I think the young kid's name is in just kind of wearing down the older man's kind of grumpiness. It's just really charming, and I think I don't know. I just really love the adventure of it. Not to mention that I think the voice performance is one of the best vocal performances we've ever gotten in a Pixar movie.
From who?
Kevin. They actually had like a young kid in the role, and Pete Docter was like chasing him around the studio and stuff to try and get that performance out of him.
That's funny.
Like he actually the Boy Scout. He actually feels like a young kid in a way that I don't think a lot of movie kids do.
Interesting. But you would pick it over The Incredibles?
No, I'm not picking it over The Incredibles.
You were just giving the eulogy. Gotcha. Thank you, Up, and away it goes.
All right, the final four, four best Pixar movies. We got to start this off with Toy Story versus Finding Nemo. Art, this is Kill Your Darlings here. Like, I almost feel like my opinion's irrelevant. I think you got to make this call.
Have you rewatched Finding Nemo?
Yeah.
Have you rewatched Toy Story?
Less recently, actually, but yeah.
Do you remember what the dog looks like in Toy Story to Toy Story 2?
I think I remember what the dog looks like in Toy Story 3.
3, when it's just slumping down. There's a big difference in animation, and I don't want to be the one to say that it hurts Toy Story, but
interesting.
It definitely dates Toy Story the most. And
Pixar is a company that has a history of making these very beautiful movies, but you do return to Toy Story, the original one, and you see that they've come a long way.
They've come a long way, and don't get me wrong, at that time, it's like seeing Color in the Wizard of Oz screening back in the day, it would have blown your mind. And it's still incredible, and the story still stands easily. When 4 came out, we rewatched 1 like it was no problem. Like rewatched it, not rewatched it again. Rewatched the rewatch. That animation don't hold up. And when I'm looking at the Disney Plus thing here, and they have Dory, Nemo, and Marlin. Just a beautiful landscape. To this day, it holds up. I don't know what they were on, Zach, when they made this one. I don't know what they were on. I'd argue it almost looks better than Dory. It still stands to this day. And it is a very difficult decision for me to make.
Yeah.
The music, if I were to compare them, You Got a Friend in Me, Even to the Lines, You're a Toy. All that stuff is great. Just Keep Swimming. Hopping on the Current with Crush.
Yeah, I mean, they've both got a lot of iconic moments. I don't know. I find Finding Nemo holds up a little bit better personally, so I'm willing to let you go that way if that's.
It's a difficult one. Hey, I'm trying to pretend like I don't, because that's all the Toy Story's gone. But Toy Story has a legacy like no other. I think when you just think Pixar, it does not need to win it. It's almost like Martin Scorsese at the Oscars. It's like what they presented at the Oscars, bro.
Yeah,
Buzz and Woody presented. Like they've won beyond that. But if we're talking movies and we're talking individuality here, I truly believe the story in Finding Nemo goes above and beyond. I think it stood the test of time with not only with this bracket that we're doing and with the decades that has passed, but will continue to.
All right. So Finding Nemo, the first to enter the finals, it is going to be up against either Ratatouille or The Incredibles. Now
that's you.
I've said my piece on Ratatouille. I've also said my piece on The Incredibles. I don't know. Do you lean heavily one way or the other?
Incredibles.
Yeah, that
I
strongly.
know their names a bit more, like just their characteristics, scenes from it. I think the story and the impact of it. Not to, again, take away from the big speech that happens in Ratatouille, but I think you see it more with. It's just because you have a family. So you're seeing from the dad's perspective, you're seeing it from the mom, and then you're seeing it from what the kids are going to. I think Jack brings a much better comedic relief than the other side characters do with Ratatouille. I think the character of Edna Mode, voiced by the director himself, I think is incredible. Not to put it that way. But I just think, I honestly feel it has one of the best scripts in all of the Pixar movies, just because, like the way that you said, the way that it plays not only with the villain, but the way that it incorporates the superhero family into a family drama, a superhero movie into a family drama.
Yeah, and I can't argue with any of that. I mean, I do love Ratatouille, and thinking about it now, I think maybe one of the things that I love about it in comparison to the rest of the Pixar movies is that you follow its protagonist through really high highs and low lows. You know, he's literally a rat in the gutter at points in this movie, and I think the ways in which his story is kind of like this roller coaster is maybe a bit unique amongst Pixar protagonists. I think Remy has a depth to him that not a lot of Pixar characters do. But I also see the argument for just like the completeness of the Incredibles ensemble. And Pixar, one of the things that a lot of their films do well is have this just ensemble of characters you want to spend time with, whether that's the other finalist, Finding Nemo, or that's Toy Story. Like the best of their movies give you a world full of people that you want to interact with. And I think there's an argument to be made for some of the characters in Ratatouille, the chefs in the kitchen, and Ego as well. But I'm not. I feel like there's The Incredibles maybe has a bit more of an impact. It has a little bit more resonance. So I'll go with here, if only for how much more I think the culture is with The Incredibles.
But do you like Ratatouille more?
Ratatouille has my heart.
Hey, I'm going to put it to you this way. Do you think The Incredibles is going to beat Finding Nemo?
I think The Incredibles has a better shot than Ratatouille.
But if it don't got a shot, then might as well just crown Ratatouille as Intercut's runner-up. This is what we're deciding here, Zach. At this moment, before you make your decision.
This is a collaboration. If you think Ratatouille is a step below, I'm happy that it got to the Final Four. Let's just go with The Incredibles.
That's actually fair. I'm surprised Ratatouille got that up. I didn't know you liked it that much. Is it your personal favorite?
It's between that and Toy Story 3, depending on the day. Yeah.
Damn. Yes, for me, it's the three has always been Nemo, Inc., and Toy Story. So
The Incredibles might be number 3 though, so I'm not disappointed to see it get into the finals here.
All right, let's go,
against
Zach.
Finding Nemo. So this is the number 4 seed versus the number 10 seed.
Vámonos.
A bit of a strange combination, not exactly chalk, but we are not complaining. It's two of the more amazing, incredible, unique visions from Pixar here. I think who's the director of Finding Nemo? Do you remember?
Let me search it up.
Is that Pete Docter?
I thought it was Andrew Stanton.
Might be Andrew Stanton.
Finding Nemo. See if I have my Nemo trivia correct, or if I'm no, I am officially the greatest Finding Nemo fan. Is in fact Andrew Stanton. Like, that's exactly why I always recall
There we go.
him.
So, hey.
I want to make sure I wasn't wrong.
If WALL-E couldn't get further, at least an Andrew Stanton movie made it all the way. So, yeah, it's Andrew Stanton versus Brad Bird, two directors who have made a bumpy transition into live-action material, but maybe this is where they belong.
Yeah. No, both of them do an incredible job, and these are the OG. Like, both of these, like, these were the men who were writing in the napkins the original ideas. With The Incredibles, if I'm not mistaken, and Finding Nemo being one of the original ideas, along with Bug's Life and the Toy Story stuff. So,
absolutely.
All right, let's start it off. Because I got a lot to say to defend Finding Nemo.
Yeah, I mean, I need to hear your Finding Nemo argument. You've been holding it a little bit.
Okay. So besides the fact that if I were to rewatch The Incredibles right now, again, I feel that in this one I think hurts it a bit more. It is not bad animation, but it's nowhere near. And what came out first, if I'm not mistaken? November 5th, 2004 is when The Incredibles came out. November 5th, 2004. Does 2003 come before 2004, Zach? Because that's when Finding Nemo
May 30th,
came out.
2003 is before.
And it looks superior. And you know this. This isn't even a comparison because when Incredibles 2 came out, people said, are we sure these are the same? Everyone was making the memes about how they didn't look the same, especially the boyfriend who Violet talks to at the end because the animation just got drastically different. Bro, you can play Finding Nemo and Finding Dory back-to-back, no problem. And I think Finding Nemo won over a 1995 flick because of the animation. So explain to me how your 2004 flick. What was Peter doing? Or sorry, Brad Bird doing?
Designing iconic-looking characters who maybe aren't up to the latest graphic standards, but are notable in their own way, right?
Okay. What else do you got to say about Incredibles?
I think I would say that the collection of characters is probably a little bit deeper in The Incredibles than Finding Nemo.
I got Dory as my side character. Who's your side character? Frozone's cool, bro. I love Frozone. Nah, don't get me wrong. Frozone is dope.
Frozone.
He's dope.
Yeah.
Not Dory.
Yeah.
You have me on villain. You have me on villain.
I got you on villain. I got you on family. Got you on dad. I think.
Man, hey, you ain't got me on dad. Marlon went all the way.
I mean, I do love me a good Albert Brooks performance. Don't get me wrong.
He's fantastic. Story-wise, I would say that the progression in Finding Nemo and the journey that they go through, I think you go through a better ensemble from going not only with Dory, but just the sequences that you have to go through and that they're fighting through, the jellyfish, and then going into with Bruce and the sharks, being friends, not food, going to the bottom of the ocean. You have it's almost two movies in one because you also have Nemo, who's back at the dentistry office, you know. And while you have not necessarily the biggest villain, your side villains from Bruce or the obstacles or Darla coming in and trying to like kill the fish, I think it's a better ensemble cast of voices.
Maybe. I mean, it's a little bit more segmented, and The Incredibles is a little bit more cohesive of a story. I don't know.
It could be, Zach, but it could be that The Incredibles just like The Misses stretches out a little bit too much, and you even got a perspective towards the end where it's ending on the Dig Dug guy? Which is where the second one begins, and they just completely ignore that. So this actually has a sequel that that was one of the biggest criticisms of 2, that it takes away from 1, where the sequel to Finding Nemo, and not to bring in the sequels there, but to expand on the world, adds to it more, I would say.
See, I don't know if I agree with you there, but I don't know if I think either of these movies' sequels does them any good.
They're not that good.
That's, I think, my opinion. Is that I think we could just ignore both sequels entirely.
I'm throwing my voice acting and I'm throwing my animation and story into the mix. I don't know what you have to bring in for Incredibles.
No, I mean, look, I think Finding Nemo has a lot to it that makes it iconic, whether it's, like you said, some of the mantras that get repeated or the characters and the voice performances. You know, it's Ellen DeGeneres has been on TV for 20-something years, and this is somehow the best thing that she's done.
That's crazy.
I don't know. I like them both. I like them both a lot, but I'm happy to give this one to Finding Nemo. If you're,
no, I want you to fight Incredibles.
I mean, I don't know how much I want to fight for it. Even I know that's why we need
the third man. I'll put it to you this way: the intercut one, if it ends up being Finding Nemo, can still have what the final decision is between. Because I feel like the intercuties, these are top 2 for a lot of them. Granted, I know Coco, and I know some aren't even watching anymore.
Maybe we got to leave this one to the intercuties, right? Because we can put up a poll, whether it's in this video or on social media. We'll tabulate all the votes and come back next week and talk about which really reigns supreme. I mean, we know which one you're picking.
Yeah.
If I got to pick, honestly, I'm picking The Incredibles, but it's by such a slim margin. Mm-hmm. I think these are both great movies. I think they're both really strong strong visions from their creators, you know? And I think when Pixar is at its best, it's that they are making these movies that are really complete visions of a world. And both these movies have that.
I agree.
So I'm happy that they're both here in the running.
If you had to submit something to take like to define Pixar, I have no problem with any of the ones that we have in the top 4.
Absolutely.
Any of the ones that we have in the
agree
top
with you
4.
there. All right, so we are done with our first Pixar bracket, but we're going to need a little bit of your help. So make sure you comment below with what you think the best
Cars
Pixar
3.
movie is. Whether you choose Finding Nemo or The Incredibles, whatever it is. And let us know if there's any polls you want to, or brackets you want to see us do in the upcoming weeks. I think we're planning to do ones for Neon, ones for Best Picture in recent years. So we got some stuff coming up, but we can always open it up to some ideas and see if any of yours make the cut. We're going to move on to our final segment of This and Every Week. It's the New to See, where we give you our picks for the week. Art, do you have a suggested viewing for everybody over the weekend?
I haven't seen the new releases, but I heard there's a really good horror movie that's going to be out with our girl, which I was a little worried her going into the Blumhouse treatment, but I heard she's doing pretty well. Invisible Man.
Early reviews are pretty good.
Early reviews are pretty good, but I haven't seen it. Can't recommend it. So stay at home, get yourself some HBO, Uber Eats some McDonald's, and watch McMillions, baby. This show is crazy.
Okay.
It's crazy. It's insane. I'm 3 episodes in. Just 3. But that FBI dude, what a character. What a
right?
He's so goofy.
How eager he is to go undercover.
But the entire just like investigation and what they go through, and I'm like, I don't want to spill anything, but like how deep it goes and all the connections, and at a certain point you're interviewing like 2 different people's families, and you don't even know which one is supposed to be the guy, you know, because it's an investigation. You don't know which is the person who we think is supposed to be the main guy, so you're following different people with the same names and stuff.
Who is Uncle Jerry?
Oh, it is. I've never craved McDonald's more in my life while watching this thing. Oh, man. And it's insane how long ago it was. But yeah, that would be my pick. I think they're wrapping up in the next couple of weeks because I think it's only 6 episodes.
Yeah.
So that's a cool one to watch.
The Monday after this podcast is posted will be the 5th episode, I want to say. So catch up and you'll be there in time for the 6th and finale.
Dope.
Final episode, yeah.
So yeah, that's my pick for the week. I've been having a good time with that one.
Awesome. My pick for the week is a Netflix show. Not a reality show. I'm going to say this is a documentary show. Cheer. It's the...
What's up?
Really beautifully directed series on Netflix. It's only 6 episodes, but it's absolutely enthralling. So it comes... what am I trying to say? It's takes place, as we mentioned on our last episode, at this junior college where they have this elite cheer program. And, you know, the way that Greg Whiteley, the director, is able to sort of film their practices and kind of show you the raw athleticism behind these performances, first of all, gave me a new appreciation for the athleticism that goes into cheer. Although I think that's the kind of bland thing you say anytime you see a documentary. It's more than that, because the way that he shows you how they put themselves on the line, the close calls that they take with their bodies, the way that they will just launch a 90-something pound girl into the air and there might not be someone there to catch her. The way that they kind of film these moments is done in such a surprising way. It catches you off guard, and I feel like they're able to make you feel the impact of it more. There's a really amazing sequence in that first episode where they try to do a particularly difficult challenge, a pyramid, a particularly difficult routine, and girl after girl just goes down. Like, this one has a concussion, this one hurt her arm, this one's not going to be able to go. And you just see the toll that it takes, not to mention how well it does these character profiles between Jerry and Lexi and Ladarius, all these people that you come to see their development throughout the program, their personalities, and the way that they've responded to their cheer coach, Monica, who's this very interesting character at the center of it. I just think it's a very well put together documentary. It really leans into the Netflix binge model. It gives you these kind of cliffhanger endings that are really, really good and just make you want to keep watching. But I found it very validating. I thought it's a beautifully filmed and really intriguing story. It's maybe my favorite TV show so far this year.
Hey, I'm glad you got to catch it. Who's your favorite?
Yeah. I mean, the easy answer is Jerry. Right?
Yeah.
What's her name though? Molly. What's the other girl? Morgan. Okay. I feel like is such a sweetheart throughout, and just her willingness to go with
she the one with
to
the
accept challenges.
The grandparents who took her, what a crazy story. Because like you were saying, what makes it insane when you're doing these routines is that they got to swap them out, so now the routine's different. And it's not just a routine. Some people are hurt. Like, that person's not there anymore. That's a different person now replacing them. This is my first time doing this routine, but I memorized the other 7 routines. So now you're thinking while you're up in the air, which routine are we in? And I really hope when I come back down, the person remembers to be at this spot and not what was yesterday's routine, which was this. I don't even like what. And then there's nothing afterwards. There is no professional cheering.
Yeah, I mean, they're going all out for these 2 years essentially.
It's crazy,
and hoping it leads them in a better place. So the documentarian Greg Whiteley also did Last Chance U for Netflix. So if you were a fan of that series, which also does a good job at kind of taking these like collegiate level sports and kind of giving them that weight and that drama. I think he does it to a whole other extent here, because like it's just, I think it's taking a sport that a lot of people dismiss and really showing you the power of these the power that participating in this has for these people, like how much they're willing to put on the line and how much it gives them too.
Yeah, gives them discipline. Yeah, I'm glad you caught it. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, same. All right, so I think that's all for this week's show, but catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShevich. That's at ZSHEV as in Hema. I'm on the TVICH, and check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/multiplex show. Art, where can people catch more from you?
You can find me at The A to Z Show and Let Me Explain on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Letterboxd. Another one that I would want to recommend is Hentified. That's on Netflix. I'll talk more about it next week. I just remembered. Really, really, really like Hentified. All I'll say. Highly recommend it.
I'll catch up on that.
Yeah. Catch that one for next week. But yeah, come back next week because we're here all the time on the Intercut Podcast.
Yes, you can listen to every episode of the Intercut Podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast. And then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/IntercutPod, where you can watch our bright, smiling faces as we run through the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of Intercut every Friday. And please leave us a comment, like the videos, and consider heading over to iTunes to give us a 5-star review. Like our Facebook, our Instagram, and Twitter pages. All of them are at Intercut Pod. And you'll get updates throughout the week from Art, from me, from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, anyone can cook. I love Ratatouille.
See, you got the final say. What's more important?